Hello and welcome to this week's Food for Thought. It's Mark Lockridge here, the pastor of New Life Fellowship in Letterkenny and Milford Reformed Presbyterian Church. It's good to have you with us, and it's good to see the sun. It's beaming in my study window as I record this. St. Patrick's Day is upon us, and over these last weeks we've been looking at Patrick and trying to discover, has he an enduring relevance for Ireland in the 21st century? We looked at his discovering of the God of the Bible, a God powerful and good, and one that you can know. And we've seen how, even though great life-wrenching things had happened to Patrick, he found something greater that could outweigh the trauma and give him meaning and purpose. And the third thing I want us to think about is about belonging. That question of, where do I belong? You know, it's one of the supreme ironies of our modern world. We've never had so many ways of being connected, and yet have never been so disconnected, and people so isolated. Politics, global issues and local issues have polarised our world and our communities. We might wonder, is there any hope for the fractured world in which we live? Is there any answer to the increasing loneliness and isolation people are feeling? 1600 years have passed since Patrick walked these lands. Ireland was riven with division then too, and Patrick knew loneliness and isolation. We can imagine the sense of dislocation, wrenched from family and land, all connections to home brutally severed, and for this to last for years. And perhaps for some of you, you don't need to imagine it. It's your story. But for Patrick, surprisingly, after escaping and returning to his family, he came back to these shores to be among these people. Something had happened to transform his sense of isolation and his view of the people he was among. He had found the secret of belonging. Amidst the loneliness of the rain-sodden fields, he found a belonging deeper than he had imagined. Here's what he writes in his confession, his mini-biography. "So I turned with all my heart to the Lord my God. He protected me and consoled me as a father his son." What a beautiful description of belonging. Consoled me as a father does for his son. The solution then is still the solution today. We were made to know God and to belong to him. This is the belonging that lies deep below all our other longings to belong. Our deepest yearnings for belonging find their rest in him. To know him, to know that he deeply delights in us, that no matter what has happened or will happen, we belong to him. That equips us to face everything else. You can belong to God. You can hear him say, like Patrick, he protected me and consoled me as a father does for his son. We're all born separated from God, but like Patrick, we can turn back to God and find that deep acceptance and belonging through Jesus Christ. Remember Patrick saying, "So I turned with all my heart to the Lord my God." And when we do that, we belong to God, and we find ourselves part of a new community of people, a people gathered from different backgrounds, cultures and stories, those who have experienced the transforming power of the good news of Jesus Christ. It not only transforms us individually, it makes us members of God's family, brothers and sisters in Christ. And that's what Patrick began to see unfolding here in Ireland. God's new community is to be an outpost of heaven, a place where the fracturedness of the world is healed, and a place of belonging for all who come to Christ from every background and culture and story. In a world of loneliness, here is a place you can belong. Here are people who are called by God to bear one another's burdens, to love one another, to welcome one another, to pray for one another. Patrick's delight here was, in his words, the many thousands of my brothers and sisters. And through trusting in Christ, you can belong to that family too. And Patrick's story, once again, can be your story too. Thanks for listening. You can find out more about the Patrick story, their videos and interviews, over at patrickstory.ie. And if you'd like a special Patrick Story edition of Mark's Gospel, drop me an email, mark@newlifefellowship.ie. Until next time here on Finn Valley FM, have a great week.